Welcome, Leo Nocentelli, to the spiritual show on Let's Live Radio.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's very, very, very good. And it's Wednesday, April 20th, just 2 days before the Meters show at the Orpheum Theater. I imagine you're excited to play in that particular venue.
Yeah, for more reasons than one. For now, it's really, I'm excited to play in the new renovated Orpheum. But there's another side to the Orpheum, that theater that I remember coming up as a kid. When I came up doing segregation.
That's right.
Way before desegregation, and I remember my auntie, my mother's sister, used to take us to the Orpheum Theater, and because I used to go stay with her sometimes, and there was a movie called Lady and the Tramp, the cartoon.
I remember it well.
One of the innovations of
had a nice score.
Yeah, great, man. So I remember her taking me as a kid. I couldn't have been no more than 7, 8, 9 years old, something like that. And I remember going into a side door on the side of the theater and walking up about 3 flights of stairs. I mean, it was like way up there, And I didn't know why I was doing that because I was kind of too young to really kind of comprehend what was happening. But that's where the blacks used to go, had to go to see in the movie, And it was like in the balcony, man. Like it was
nosebleed section.
Oh man, it was like. Looking at the screen was like looking at an ant, trying to act. But we were managed to see it. So it's a kind of interesting transition from one time to the other. Now I'm going there as an artist to headline the show that sold out. So it has some real significance to me.
Yeah, you've seen some gains made. Yeah, I was thinking that we would play Hey Pocky Way from the Rejuvenation album, 74, now. And that kind of bears on a lot of your personal history, too. You're from a mixed race background. Could you speak about that, growing up in New Orleans with, parents of two races?
Well, my dad, my grandfather actually came from Sicily, Monsemano, Sicily, and that's where my dad was one of 9 children that he had with the black. I forget the Indian tribe. She was actually with Blackfoot, and back then, the blacks and the Indians was the only 2 races that kind of mixed intermingled with each other, and. Because, that's what the significance even of the Mardi Gras Indians, because a lot of people think it's people dressing up in costumes and jumping like crazy people. But there are some realism to that, because there's a lot of Indians in New Orleans, both male and female, and descendants from them.
Yeah, you can see it every day on the street.
Yeah. So anyway, my dad was one of 9 children that they had, and they migrated to, they settled down in Nocentelli, Louisiana. And my grandfather was Aristide Nocentelli. He was from Sicily. My mom was French. She spoke very fluent French. She was from Laplace. From when the French settled there and bought land. She's a descendant from one of those people hooking up with each other.
And your father, I've read, was quite a powerful personality.
Oh yeah. He was a poet. He wrote. He was a guitar player, banjo player, and one of the most. It's a band called Louisiana Black Devil Band, which is one of the few bands that was performing at different clubs around New Orleans and Downsonville, Gonzales, Reserve, all that area. And that's how I really got interested in playing the guitar. From him.
Okay. Well, let's listen to Hey Pocky Way as the Meters did it back in 1974, and then maybe you can tell us about what you feel you brought to it. I hear a lot that you brought to it that hadn't been in the song before. The Meters, 1974. You all had been playing together for about 8 years, I believe. The group that became the Meters, you and Zigaboo Modeliste and Art Neville and George Porter Jr.
Well, we were playing together. These individuals for a lot of years before that, you know, but it wasn't under the name The Meters, you know. And in actuality, Art had a band called the Harkettes.
All right.
So I was like the first guy he kind of used, you know, along with other musicians in New Orleans. And, you know, as it evolved, you know, we started getting other people in the band, but it still wasn't called The Meters until we recorded the first single it was.
Yeah, and you wound up playing together as a unit in the Ivanhoe along Bourbon Street, and you're playing 6 nights a week, like 8 hours a shift.
I remember it well.
I was just watching a video this morning of how you had come up with the the lines for Sissy Strut because you were so exasperated with playing the same intro every night. And you came up with the Sissy Strut melody.
Not just us. It was almost every band played the same opening song called Hold It.
Right.
And as this melody I've been toying around with, as a writer, I started writing it early, and I just kind of introduced it to everybody. Said, man, let's just play this, and maybe we started opening up our sets with it.
Sure.
And that's how that happened.
Tell us about the music for Hey Pocky Way, the meters music for that particular one.
Well, the meters music, as you could tell, musically is kind of traditional, especially with the drums, the second line kind of beat. When we went in the studio, Art came up with a lot of the lyrics for that song because he's from that kind of
tradition,
thing. Me as a writer, I was kind of all around. I wasn't particularly zoomed into New Orleans music, but Art was, from years ago when he first recorded. So Pocket Way was kind of reminiscent of old New Orleans and whatever New Orleans was at the time in terms of the beat and the lyrics and the whole overall feel about the song.
So I imagine that you never talked about the syncopation, but the syncopation is really distinctive. There's nothing like meters syncopation.
Yeah.
Well,
syncopation could be interpreted different ways.
Right.
People, I interpret syncopation is when two instruments or three instruments are in sync with each other. And syncopation could be interpreted as a kind of beat that each instrument is really not playing the same notes, but they're all in sync with each other.
That was my feeling.
Yeah. A lot of people get different ideas of what syncopation is.
Yeah, well, it's the beautiful interplay of the melody and the rhythm in the meters that I think, is like nothing else. And the reason you should be in every Hall of Fame.
Well, we were nominated twice, twice.
We'll get there.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I got some things to say about that, about that organization, but I just keep it quiet right now.
Sure. So I'd like to skip back a couple of decades to a guitarist whom I think you admire named Johnny Smith. I recall reading that as you were learning guitar, you would kind of hole up in your bedroom and listen to Johnny Smith records and kind of break them down, play the parts slowly. So I'd like to next cue up Johnny Smith playing Cherokee in 1952. So that's some pretty fine stuff. How did you happen to hear that, and why did it appeal to you?
I don't know. My thoughts about me when I really got into the guitar is I've always pictured myself as a solo artist, like a George Benson, or people might know of them now, like George Benson, Wes Montgomery. Right now they have Norman Roberts, people like that up to date.
Kenny Burrell still around.
Yeah, up to date.
Yeah.
And they just happened to be on the scene at that time. Johnny Smith, Kenny Burrell, Charlie Christian, people like that. And I've always wanted to be that kind of artist on guitar.
Yeah. I don't mean to sound presumptuous, but I think that's one of the elements that you brought that is distinctive from Leo Nocentelli.
I would say so. I would say so. A lot of people ask me because it has a jazz influence. I could play funk, I could play Dixieland, I could play rock, and it's still going to have that jazz fusion, what they call fusion now, influence from the people that I came up, listening to.
All right. I'd like us to hear now one of my favorite Meters tracks. It's one of the more, call it orchestrated tracks, called It Ain't No Use. And that, I think, features a lot of the elements that are particularly yours and particularly the Meters.
Yeah.
So that's marvelous.
Yeah, you know, it sounds even better now than it did back in the game. You know.
Well, a lot of people admire it. It's been covered by. Tell me who it's been covered by.
Oh man, I know it more as the samples. It's been sampled by so many people, by so many rap artists, different segments of the song. And actually, the significance of that song, I think, on the album, when people were recording back then, if a song was 2, 3, 4 minutes long, if it was over 2.5 minutes or over 3 minutes, they couldn't use it. It was taboo.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand that because now I know